Welcome back, viewers. If you're just joining us, we're discussing recent developments in the Zimbabwean economy as well as on the local stock market. And to discuss that, I have in studio our investments analyst, Respect Kwenzi and Kenneth Ndlovu. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks for having us.
Splendid. Before we can get into the post-budget media briefing by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Professor Mutuli NOV, let's just delve into the latest figures that we're just getting. From the World Platinum Investments Council, Zimbabwe is expected to produce 365 ounces of platinum between 2018 and 2019, as well as 2019 and 2020. What do these figures mean?
It is the second top exported mineral.
Okay.
That's after gold. So it's really a significant, mineral in the matrix of Zimbabwe. So 365 ounces makes Zimbabwe the third largest producer in the world, after South Africa and Russia, respectively. So I mean, it's a positive development, and also looking at what the budget was pronouncing in terms of tax breaks. They said they'll be suspending the 15% tax on raw platinum exports and deferring it to 2020, in line with the strategy to create to build a refinery by all the local players on the market. So we are going to see a lot of value addition around platinum as we go, and that's also contribute more in terms of what we earn as a country. So that has been the major drawback in terms of our platinum. Most of the producers have been accused of understating their production numbers, and we have not been getting full value of the produce. So government, in trying to instill that push in terms of value addition, they have devised a tax which they have now deferred, saying no, these guys are making progress towards creating a one-stop refinery which all players can utilize. So we are bound to see growth in terms of platinum exports revenues as we go forward, and these numbers they look good, but when you're looking at them comparatively, if you look at other countries in terms of their 2019 projections, there's likely to be a growth in that static, and it's worrying that our production levels are going to be static 2018 to 2019. I'm not so sure if this speaks into a whole lot of economic issues around Zimbabwe, the issue of failing to get as much from your minerals and whatnot. I'm not so sure if platinum is exempted from this 55% export retention rule.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah. So those are some of the things around, interesting things around platinum.
Key issues at the post-budget media briefing?
Yeah, there were some quite fruitful exchanges, notably our own exchange with him. I'm sure we'll take a look at a bit of what transpired between our exchange before we can possibly look closely into that.
You see, even at the moment, do you realize that actually we don't have full monetary or exchange rate policy, in the sense that we're in a multi-currency regime and we don't have our own domestic currency, right? So when you talk about devaluation, what are you devaluing? But I heard you. Yeah. So those countries had the flexibility to do exactly that because they had something to devalue in the first place. So what we have at the moment is only one leg of the puzzle, which is fiscal policy. That's why, but also we notice that fiscal policy is the issue. It is also, fiscal policy was a challenge, but it is also the solution. That's how we've moved aggressively on fiscal policy with fiscal consolidation. So the issue of austerity really applies to that, to signal that we mean business, so that then we can assist the process for dealing with monetary policy and exchange rate policy in future.
My conversation with the minister regarding issues to do with how to progress from here. If you look at certain countries that have implemented austerity for prosperity, so to say, or a model around that subject, austerity, you realize that there are certain arms that they have had to use in harmony with the concept of austerity.
Yeah.
Okay, austerity would basically mean an increase in taxation, a reduction in government expenditure.
Yeah.
But you'd realize that with the examples that I did mention there, they also brought in what I refer to as devaluation. But perhaps to shed more light, what I was essentially trying to highlight was that there needs to be a liberalization of the market. Not to say that I'm not aware that we don't have a currency at the moment, but perhaps would need to actually acknowledge that we have a currency of some sort. Then we perhaps take the issue to Parliament and get ourselves to a point where we say that we have a currency because we're using the bond, we're using the RTGS. What is that? It's some kind of a currency.
It's quite difficult for any country to actually achieve meaningful things without a currency and also without an independent monetary policy. I did actually mention the issue of independent monetary policy in the sense that it's very difficult when government is actually meddling in the affairs. Like now our government is just all over the place, you know. They're actually influencing the allocation of forex to a lot of companies, like what I've mentioned before. So our dilemma here as a country is that we don't have our own currency, but then there's greater need for us to be able to actually achieve austerity. There's greater need for us to boost our exports. And how do you boost your exports as a country? Don't just produce, but also you have to devalue your currency so that your exports become attractive to the regional players, given that Zimbabwe trades a lot with South Africa. And South Africa actually right now is using the rand, which is very weak when compared to the US dollars. So if South African businesses are trying to import a lot of our products from Zimbabwe, they'll find those very, very expensive. And what would they do? They just turn to the likes of Zambia, Botswana for alternatives, which is quite difficult. Or even just fly to Europe, because they also have good terms of trade with those countries that they have in the African continent. So it's a lot of costs that are involved. So it's very difficult for us to actually play around actually attracting a lot of foreign currency, then achieve the austerity that the minister wants without our own currency.
We know that there are currencies that are in the market, even though they're not currencies as from a legal perspective. On the finance side, we know that we are using a three-tier pricing model, which is the USD, the bond note, and as well as the RTGS. So I mean, that really needs to be dealt with. We cannot keep on holding that these are always a par. But I think the transitions around dealing with these always have to be there has to be taken, a caution has to be taken in terms of how somebody tries to deal with currency issues. There's a lot of value that people have placed against that RTGS, and in 2009 we saw a whole lot of pensions and savings being wiped off simply because we just said every local money is now derelict, is of no value at all. So I mean, government is aware of that, and they're trying to possibly move towards re-dollarization, but in a painful, slow way, through letting market forces try to be at play. But the fact that they are holding the certain imports and substituting and actually paying and actually letting them be imported at a discount, that's causing also some serious market disequilibriums, and that's likely to also widen this gap in terms of forex and whatnot. So in as much as he's saying he's dealing with the deficit in terms of on the fiscal side as well as the trade side, I think that there is need to realize that he cannot keep on discounting importation of goods like fuel and whatnot. There has to be a form of a way of trying to manage forex issues.
African economies tend to have a peculiarity of a dual economy, for example, and a very strong services sector, a very small manufacturing sector, strong agricultural sector. So there are certain peculiarities that you have to factor in as well as you think through these kind of policies that we have to continue, for example, to support agriculture. So, but I like that kind of analysis. Please extend it to Ghana as well.
when you clearly look at the example of Ghana, you would see that Ghana managed to liberalize. And in the short term, although there were some costs.
I remember Ghana did implement austerity measures in 1993.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there was a cost on the short term. There is always a cost in the short term, because when your currency loses competitiveness, your exports or your products gain competitiveness.
Yeah.
So the immediate loss is the loss in the money that you are getting.
Okay.
But gradually, as you develop a big export market, you start also reaping the rewards. So it's a mid to long-term strategy of sustaining the value of your currency as well as your productive sector. So your currency will come back strong, and also your productive sector will start also growing, because you have developed a scale, you have developed foreign markets, and it will be very difficult for other countries to come into that space. And so he did not quite define his narrative around. I think his strongest point was that of saying we don't have a currency, so we can't devalue. But we know that that's just a legal technicality.
Yeah.
But from an economics point, we have a currency which need to be dealt with. The rationale of a country liberalizing its exchange rate when austerity is concerned is usually for it to gain an export advantage.
Yeah.
It's used in a way of luring external demand, whereas the local demand would have softened. So when you're looking at the structure of Zimbabwe, where we say our exports are concentrated in minerals and whatnot, what it means is we might see a scaling up of production in the short term as our gold becomes cheaper, and so that 30 or 34 ton target can even double up in a matter of a few years. Okay. And once you reach a scale of 50 tons and above, it will become difficult to go back. But African countries don't want to take the costs on the very short term.
Yeah,
I think that's where the problem is. They don't want to lose value, so they want to hold on to something that they know. There's something that they know that it's not equal.
The whole idea behind trying to address fiscal issues, then get to address the currency issue, what is perhaps a strategy to avoid a 2007-2008 scenario, which is still very much fresh in the hearts and minds of the Zimbabweans. So his idea is he wants to try and address these issues, then with time get to address issues of the currency in alliance with the central bank governor.
So I'm against the way he is approaching to that. You can have a partial liberalization,
like the Nigerian scenario.
Yes, we have this Nigerian scenario. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's worth looking at, because you're trying to save a certain sector. You're trying to save certain critical sectors up until the point of stabilization. So you are in a moment where you're in a crisis, and you really know that what's critical right now is to drive the exports market. And you don't need to sell a dummy to the exporter. The exporter needs his money. Okay. But they also need an appreciation of what's at stake, because if they don't help, they also get into the mess. So what you do, you give them a bit of a premium, a bit of an exchange rate. To the importer, they critically need to be in business. But they also have to appreciate that they are not generating forex, and they are taking from the one who is generating forex. Okay. And therefore, it's important to create an exchange rate for these two key elements of the economy. So in Zimbabwe's terms, you are dealing with miners, who are the major guys who export. You are dealing with tobacco producers. They have to feel that it's different to have a USD and to have a local money by getting a premium when you give them the local money. To the importer as well, the guy who imports fuel, they have to pay a bit of a premium as well. So what that does is it slightly pushes up prices, but it also slows down the rate at which prices grow, because the guys who are producing through imports are able to restock faster. Because they are paying a rate which is low. Okay. But you also have expenditure on the mid-tier of general people who just want to import stuff. They pay a bit of a premium to it, but the productive sector is covered. Okay. Once you cover the productive sector, you ensure that there's a slower inflation growth. Once you also give an incentive to the exporter, you also speed up the rate at which somebody is exporting. Okay. So this model is really worth interrogating. Why I'm saying this is because I see us failing to do something positive simply because we are scared we can mess it up all.